There? There we go.
There we go. All right, so after his prison sentence, he would get out and start working for a man by the name of Arnold Rothstein. He was a thug, bodyguard, but most importantly, a frontman for Rothstein. Did a lot of work in the Manhattan area, selling selling booze, intercepting booze. He had many connections. The websites I looked at all took note of that. He knew people like Lucky Luciano, lots of big names down over in New York. Then a big part of Legs Diamond's scheme, the reason he's called Legs Diamond is because he would hold up booze trucks, steal booze from other gangsters, and then make quick getaways. That's why they called him Legs. One person he would steal the booze from goes by the name of Big Bill Dwyer. At this time, he also got kind of rented out to back to the Hudson Dusters, and he would protect the guy by the name of Little Augie Organ. This is one of his bodyguard stints. Organ did die. They were walking one night, got out of the hotel, walking. Diamonds was his bodyguard. The Little Augie's nemesis drove by, shot some bullets immediately, killed Little Augie Organ, and hit Diamond twice. Both bullets lodged right below the heart. Diamond Domain, Rothstein would get shot and killed, and at that time, Diamond started to lose control of the empire. His front business started dying. This Schultz would begin expanding into his area, and that's when the rivalry really began between Diamond and Ditch Schultz. Then, as for the narcotics mission, Diamond was given $200,000 from Salvatore Spittel and Irving Blitz to go to Europe and get some narcotics, bring it back to the U.S. But during that trip, Diamond was chased by authorities from Ireland and France, and he finally made it to Germany, where he was supposed to get the narcotics, but he was detained and sent back to America before getting the narcotics. Germany labeled him as an undesirable and sent him back. One of Diamond's nicknames was the Clay Pigeon of the underworld. He would get shot many times throughout his life as a gangster. In 1930, he was shot 5 times in a hotel. He was just in his hotel room. Some people burst in. I think he was in the bathroom. They shot him 5 times. And Diamond says that after being shot, he fell on the floor, hobbled over to his desk, drank some shot of whiskey, and that helped him hobble out of his room into the hallway and get some help. 1931, he was charged. He faced assault charges, paid the bond, got out. But 6 days later, after that, he was shot again 3 more times. While he was in the hospital recovering from those bullet wounds, the New York State troopers raided one of his places and took $5,000 worth of booze. 1931, he was tried for bootlegging in 4 years, but he would ultimately be acquitted. Just a couple days later, however, he was visiting his mistress, Marion Kiki Roberts. She's also somewhat famous. He was visiting her early in the morning. He went back to his rooming house after having a little acquittal party with her. He went back to his rooming house, got really drunk, blacked out, and at 5:32, gunmen entered his house, held him down, shot him 3 times in the head. They actually, supposedly the story is that as they were leaving his body on the bed, they turned around. One of them shot him just a couple more times to make sure he was dead. This Schultz, his nemesis, even at one point said, "Ain't there nobody that can shoot this guy so he don't bounce back?"
He is finally dead.
Yes, he's finally dead. Not coming back from this one. As for the suspects, no one was ever pinned. No, the murder was never pinned on anyone. It was believed that Dick Schultz, the Holy Brothers, the Albany Police Department, or Red Cassidy, who all had grudges against him, might have done it. Less than a mile away, a couple days later, a .30 revolver and flashlight were found at St. Paul's Church. There weren't any prints on it. You couldn't use that to get anyone. Interestingly enough, Legs Diamond, there are also stories of him murdering people, but he would never be charged with murder. None of those charges ever went through. And through 1924 to 1931, It's claimed that he survived 70 buckshot pellets and at least 12 pistol slugs. So this guy got shot a lot, but almost always survived. And now we have Arthur Flegenheimer, a famed rival of Lex Diamond. So Arthur Flegenheimer was born to German Jewish immigrants. They came to America when he was a baby. He lived in the Bronx. His father left him at a young age. Then he turned to burglary and bootlegging. At the age of 17, he served 17 months for burglary. That was the only prison sentence he would actually ever serve. And he started to build his criminal empire. He would become known as Dutch Schultz, named after another local gangster known for his violence and brutality. And then he would join Joey No and form a gang with his buddy Joey No. So as for the Schultz territory, he controlled a lot of the Harlem area. As I said before, he would start expanding. That would cause a lot of gang wars. What he started off with was booze sales and intimidation. There's one bar person who wouldn't buy booze from him, so he kidnapped that barkeeper, tortured him until he would buy booze from him. He was big on intimidation, would scare other gangs away. Like I said, he was named after a violent, brutal gangster. Started expanding into Manhattan. That was Diamond's territory. A couple other gangs started getting wars there. In 1928, Lex Diamond would order the killing of No. No would get killed, and then Schultz, as retaliation, would kill Arnold Rothstein, Diamond's boss. So Beer Baron of the Bronx, that was another title nickname given to Dutch Schultz. Schultz versus Vincent Cole, that's Nick has Vincent Mad Dog Cole, I believe. That's another gang war they had. Schultz and Vincent Cole were in a gang. That gang split up. Schultz started his own. After the initial booze selling and just intimidation, Schultz started expanding his empire and began doing illegal gambling, slots, policy rackets. In 1933, there would be a tax charge against him. He hid out for an entire year as they were searching for him. Wouldn't come out to the public. He was tried twice, but both times there was a hung jury. It did hurt business though, so he was bitter about that. His empire got quite hurt by that. The death of the Dutchman, that was another one of his nicknames. New York Special Prosecutor Thomas E. Dewey started chasing him for just like Al Capone for tax evasion type stuff. 1935, Schultz would get indicted on federal charges. He blamed Dewey, although Dewey had nothing to do with these charges. He started planning revenge. He started making murder plans, talking to his gang about it. The gang got nervous and they actually ordered a hit. And in 1935, Murder Incorporated would shoot Schultz, kill him at a restaurant. They killed a couple more people. But for a little while, Schultz actually survived the bullet wounds. I think he made it to the hospital, but he was too far gone. Some of the final stuff he said is advice from Dutch Schultz as he lay dying. A boy has never wept nor dashed 1,000 kin. He can play jacks and girls do that with a softball and do tricks with it. Oh, dog biscuit, when he's happy, he doesn't get snappy. There's a whole list of random stuff. He just started babbling after he was shot. No one really knows what exactly he meant by it, but he had lots of good takes on life.
Yeah.
And
Life lessons, right?
exactly.
I love Shaw.
So then before this, actually, Schultz, after Dewey got on him, he got a little bit scared. Normally the intimidator, but now he was intimidated. He and his bodyguard ordered a special safe to be made. He hid $7 million in it and hid it somewhere. But both Schultz and his bodyguard were killed at the restaurant, and it's supposedly never been found. So $7 million somewhere. And that's it.
Snitch is very good. Wait, any questions? Any questions?
Chris, would they 7 million in what would be today's money, or that's not that 7 million back then?
Ah, one question, what is a policy racket?
I don't actually remember.
Fake insurance. Yeah. All right, good job. Good job, very good. And you know, the slow tie-in, but it's still a good story. I mean, the good story, great story. little tie-in that does connect to other stories. Arnold Rothstein would be a big player behind the 1919 Black Sox scandal in the World Series. And one more thing, Thomas Dewey would become famous getting Dutch, going after Dutch smokes and other gamblers. He would lose to Roosevelt for president, and then everybody thought he would beat Truman in 48. It's one of the biggest political upsets in history when Truman beat Dewey. Speaking of that, who said they were going to go next then? Who do we have us going today? Ready? Give me 1 second, and then after.
People didn't do go.
Assignments. Sorry, I'm just getting the assignments up. Bugsy Siegel is coming up. There, give me 1 sec. All right, go.
All right, so I had Bugsy Siegel. So Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was born February 28th, 1906 in Williamsburg, which is the neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York. He was the second oldest in his family of 5 children, and he grew up poor in a Jewish family that immigrated from Austria-Hungary. His mother was Jeannie Reichenfeld, and his father was Max Siegel. As a kid, he left school and joined a gang on Lafayette Street, which is like the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And it was mainly petty theft until he met Mo Siegler. And together they started this protection racket, where basically they just threatened to destroy like little push cart owners' merchandise unless they like paid them. After this, he started to commit more and more crimes, including armed robbery, rape, and murder as a teenager. So some of his criminal highlights are the Bugs and Meyer Law, which was with Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky had a run-in with Charles W. Luciano and wanted to create his own gang, like the Italians and Irish had. Siegel became involved in several crimes, including bootlegging, drug dealing, hijacking liquor cargoes, and murder, as he was like a hitman for the gang. And around this time, he was friends with Al Capone since childhood. And so Siegel let Al Capone hide out with his aunt while there was a warrant for Capone's arrest. By the age of 21, he was making a lot of money in the drug trade, and he flaunted it with like his fancy apartment, fancy clothes, cars. Like he participated in like really prestigious New York nightlife and stuff. On May 13th through the 16th of 1929, Lansky and Siegel, with their gang, attended this Atlantic City conference at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, where Charles Luciano and Johnny Torrio of the Chicago South Side gang met. They wanted to discuss the future of organized crime and sort of make like a truce, and set up like guidelines. And then Esta Krakauer and Ben were married January 28th, 1929, because they were childhood sweethearts. They had 2 daughters, Millicent Siegel and Barbara Siegel, but he had a reputation as like a womanizer and a player, and that led to the end of the marriage when they divorced in 1946. Throughout all this time, he was involved with murdering, just being a hitman for them, doing a lot of just crimes with them. So he went down to California, where he got involved in really, really high circles, as he was super rich at this point. He befriended a lot of movie stars and musicians and studio execs. Some of these prominent people included George Raft, Clark Gable, Gary Cooper, and Cary Grant. as well as studio executives, Louis B. Mayer and Jack L. Warner. Actress Jean Harlow was actually the godmother to his first daughter. Um, and he often threw super lavish parties where he met and gave the admiration of really young, impressionable celebrities like Tony Curtis, Phil Silvers, and even Frank Sinatra. So while participating in like the Hollywood scene, he started this illegal racket where he extorted movie studios by taking over the local trade unions where actors and directors and like stage crew would go. And he would set up these strikes where nobody would work unless the movie studios like paid Ben Siegel, and then he would tell the actors and the directors and the stage crew like, "Oh, you guys can go back to work." In 1938, he went to Italy with one of his mistresses, Countess Dorothy de Fraso, where he met Benito Mussolini and tried to sell him weapons. While he was there, he also
He sold Mussolini weapons.
he tried to, but
Oh.
it didn't go through. Yeah,
I didn't know that story. about
yeah.
that.
And then there he also met Nazi leaders Hermann Göring
Here.
and Joseph Goebbels. He ended up hating them after like having dinner with them one time and offered to kill them, but the Countess said no because she didn't want to get on Leon's bad side. All right. So on November 22nd of 1939, Siegel, Whitney Carlo, Frankie Carlo, and Albert Tannenbaum murdered Harry Greenberg near his Hollywood Hills residence. Greenberg had basically warned or threatened to become a police informant, and so Murdoch and the and his gang decided that they wanted to execute him. But then Tannenbaum ended up admitting to killing him and consented to testifying against Siegel in court. Siegel was linked to the murder and faced trial in September 1941. The trial became really famous really fast because word got out that he was getting really special treatment while in jail. Like he declined to eat the prison food, so they like got him a bunch of really fancy food that he asked for, and then he was allowed to have female guests. He was allowed to leave for like doctor and dental appointments. Like he was just getting a lot of special treatment. And of course, people were really mad at that. He also threatened to kill a Hollywood reporter while in jail because they leaked some personal information about him. One of the things that they leaked though was his nickname, which is Bugsy or Bugs. And he didn't like that nickname at all because it meant crazy. Like people were just calling him crazy because he had a really short fuse. And so he didn't want them like saying that sort of stuff about him. And then as far as the like special treatment allegations, he denied that so much, but everyone kind of did. So after the whole trial happened, he ended up getting acquitted due to lack of evidence in 1942. So after California and being in the Hollywood scene, he wanted to get into something new, and like reinvent his image. So he decided to go into a legitimate business. Basically, he wanted to get into gambling. So he went to Las Vegas. They signed an agreement to give him control of the Flamingo Hotel. Siegel dedicated himself to providing like the best gambling like possible. The finest food and liquor and like big entertainers for shows. This attracted like thousands of tourists who wanted to spend money. Wilkerson, the guy that signed over the management to him, ended up selling the Flamingo Hotel to Siegel. Kind of. It was because Siegel threatened to kill him if he didn't. And then by the next year, the Flamingo's cost was over $6 million, which is equivalent to around $84 million today. His boasting and pride about his hotel and casino success ended up leading a lot of other people to want to follow in his footsteps and create their own huge chains of major casinos. Most of them are still. Finally, on the night of June 20th of 1947. Siegel was in his Beverly Hills mansion with his girlfriend at the time. He was sitting on the sofa with his associate Alice Smiley. There was a couple other people in the house that night, but they weren't involved in this. At around 11 p.m., an unknown shooter fired into the living room through a window with a 30 caliber machine gun at a range of 14 feet. Nobody could see the assailant. There's like theories that there were two of them. But a total of 9 rounds were shot and 4 hit Siegel. 1 hit the bridge of his nose and ripped out his left eyeball, and then 1 hit him in the neck, or right cheek and exited back of his neck, and then 2 hit him in the chest. News spread really quickly about his death, and even though it happened in Beverly Hills, it kind of pushed Vegas and like his mob associates into the limelight, and like they had a national spotlight on them. The day after his death, David Bierman and his Las Vegas mob associates walked into the Flamingo and took over operation of the hotel and casino. And that's where his story ends.
They probably killed him.
Yeah, he's dead.
And anybody have a question? He was kind of everywhere. I always forget about that. I didn't know about the one city would kill Goering and Goebbels, the head of the propaganda. That's pretty amazing. Smell like this Mussolini. That's awesome. Awesome. You know what? Awesome story. Any other questions? Anything? So he's murdered, and yeah, great story. Should we go to the Flamingo? Is it still there? Lots of things. Now they're all owned by corporations, which is another kind of organization. Kind of, you know. All right, this question, yeah.
Yeah, so there were multiple different hotels that were trying to copy the aesthetic with the name Flamingo.
Yeah, no, it was mainly like he just inspired a lot of people to like do the same thing. So that's why there's so many hotels that are literally the exact same thing, but like with a different name.
That's what a character. All right, good job. Nice. All right, one more thing. I knew you were friends, but I always forget about this. Gary Cooper, who only played good guys. Where's Gary Cooper from? Where did Gary Cooper grow up? Anybody know what high school Gary Cooper went to? One of the most famous actors in American history. He went to Helena High. Gary Cooper, one of the most famous actors in American history, multi-Academy Award winner, friend of Bugsy Siegel from Helena.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But he went to the
Well, there was no capital. And Helena High back then was Helena Middle School. Before they moved to Helena High to the Swamp. Okay, so did you say you went to the Nationalists, the Spanish Civil War?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Give me one sec. Oh, here we go. It just took a while for it to pop up on. Give me one sec. All right, great. I do enjoy the presentation. Give me one sec. Go.
Okay, so I had George Machine Gun Kelly, and as I was doing research, I realized that Catherine Kelly, his wife, was also a big person that was involved in this. So now the presentation's on both of them. So first off, George Machine Gun Kelly. He was born in Memphis, Tennessee. There's not much about him when he was like a little kid. The like earliest I could find was when he enrolled in Mississippi State University to study agriculture. He was considered a very poor student, with his highest grade being a C+, which he had been awarded because of his good physical hygiene. And he was constantly getting in trouble with university faculty and spent a lot of his academic career trying to work off the demerits that he had received. So he was basically like always in detention. During this time, he met his first wife, Geneva Ramsey, who he quickly fell in love with, causing him a very quick decision to quit school, and they got married. So now Catherine Kelly, So Catherine Kelly, her real name is Cleo Lyra Mae Brooks. She was born in Stellito, Mississippi. She changed her name from Cleo to Catherine before she married her first husband, Lonnie Clyde Fry, which when I read that, I thought it was Bonnie and Clyde, but it's not. So she married him at the age of 14. She had her first child at 15. 2 years after she was married. Her and Fry, they separated, and then soon after this, like a year after this, she got married again to a man named L.J. Brewer. But they as well soon separated, and she moved to Fort Worth, Texas, with her mother and stepfather, and that's where she met her third husband, Charlie Thorne. So now separate crimes that they did. So, Machine Gun Kelly, he was always invested in crimes as like a child. As a child, he did like petty crimes like stealing and stuff like that. But during the Prohibition era, he got into bootlegging for himself and colleagues as well. But after continued run-ins with the Memphis Police Department, he and his girlfriend, he's divorced at this point, they decided to head west, specifically to Oklahoma. And in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kelly was eventually arrested in 1928 for smuggling liquor onto a Native American reservation. He was sentenced to 3 years at Leavenworth Penitentiary, but was released early on good behavior. He was reportedly a model prisoner. So now Catherine Kelly, she's kind of crazy. So her third husband, Charlie Thorne, he was a bootlegger. Not much about their relationship, but after a fight between the two, Charlie Thorne was found shot dead with a typed up suicide note. This was 3 years after marrying Catherine. Catherine had allegedly told a gas station attendant the day before Charlie was found killed. And she said, quote, "I'm bound to Coleman, Texas to kill that goddamn Charlie Thorne." This was an alleged crime, but she's crazy. So the judge, but when she went to trial for this, the judge had completely looked over this statement and stuff. And Catherine was never convicted of murder. So how they met. So they met in Oklahoma. Catherine was the girlfriend at the time of another gangster. His name was Steve Anderson. She's not really important. But while Steve was out of town, Catherine and George ran off together to get married in Minneapolis. And after getting married, they relocated back to Fort Worth area where they operated as bootleggers. And this is where Catherine bought George his first machine gun. And Catherine insisted, despite George, he was never really interested in weapons at all, but Catherine had insisted that he perform target practice in the countryside. She also went to great lengths to familiarize his name with underground crime circles. And a lot of like the articles that I read said that probably without Catherine, George would never have the fame that he has today. It's basically all because of her. So now, oops. Okay, crimes committed together. So there are two major crimes that they committed together. They're both kidnapping. So the first kidnapping crime, George, Catherine, and another gangster named Eddie Dahl, they worked together in the kidnapping of a wealthy manufacturer in South Bend, Indiana. They held him, or his name was Howard Arthur Wolverton. That is his tomb thing. They held him for $50,000 ransom. But he was released unharmed after less than 24 hours in captivity. The crime was basically forgotten in the following decades, but at the time, this was it was a massive deal. It was super reported on and very publicized, and it was described as, quote, "a turning point in America's growing kidnapping scourge." This kidnapping also revived the consideration of the Lindenberg Law, which it actually eventually got passed because of this. This is one of the factors of why it got passed. So really quick, if you don't know what that is, it was because of the kidnapping and the murder of the Lindenberg baby. And this law made it a federal crime to transport a kidnapped person across state lines. It created the assumption that a kidnapped person, if not released within 24 hours, was transported across state lines and stuff. So that's what that is. So, yeah. So their next crime that they committed together, another kidnapping. This one was of a wealthy Oklahoma city resident named Charles F. Urschel and his friend Walter R. Jarrett, and they demanded a ransom of $200,000, which would be $4.9 million today. And they held these two men at Catherine's Catherine's mother and stepfather's ranch in Oklahoma. Oh no, sorry, in Texas. But Urschel, he was blindfolded for almost like the entire time, in the entire time of his captivity. But he made mental notes of evidence, like he remembered background noises, and he counted his footsteps, and he left his fingerprints all over the area that he was in and he was held in. And this proved to be invaluable for the FBI investigation. The agents had somehow concluded, it didn't really say how, but they somehow concluded that Urschel was held in Paradise, Texas. The FBI had found out that the Kellys were staying in the residence of J.C. Tiggener, and in the early mornings of September 26, 1933, Catherine and George were taken into custody. And it's often reported that George, when he was arrested, he was caught without a weapon, and he was allegedly shouting, don't shoot, G-men, don't shoot G-men. But everybody doesn't believe this. Like, it's probably just a story that one of the officers told. At their trial was held at the post office, courthouse, and federal office building in Oklahoma City. It's an all-in-one deal. And there was an investigation done on Catherine's parents, and they were found guilty of aiding and abetting the criminals. So they were also charged. Both parents were charged. The kidnapping of Urschel was historic. This is very interesting. It was historic in 4 ways. So the first way that it was historic was it was the first federal criminal trials in the U.S. in which film cameras were allowed. The second is the first kidnapping trials after the passage of the Lindenberg Law. The third was the first major case was involved by J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. So this was their first case that they solved. And then number 4 is the first prosecution in which defendants were transported by airplanes. Okay, so now the death of Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly spent the rest of his life, 21 years in prison. Kelly had gotten the name Top Gun Kelly because of the big fish stories he told, which just like he likes to tell and exaggerated stories. Kelly, he wasn't really taken seriously as a prisoner. Because he was a model prisoner. He was always described as the guy who he would do extra chores for people and stuff like that. Like he didn't seem like a gangster, your typical gangster. And the FBI and the media and Catherine, they portrayed him as this brutal gangster. He really wasn't. He was just kind of a guy who got caught up in everything. Kelly spent 17 years in Alcatraz before being transferred back to Leavenworth in 1951, where he would die 3 years later on July 17th, 1954, the day before his 60th birthday. And he was buried at Cottondale, Texas Cemetery. And this is interesting. At Catherine Kelly's stepfather's family plot. Her stepfather, Shannon, he was released after serving 11 years. He was released on good behavior. And he immediately, as soon as he got out of jail, he arranged for the burial to be in his family's plot, which I don't know why. It's a little strange, but yeah. So now, Catherine, her and her mother, Aura, both served 25 years together at a women's correctional facility in West Virginia before being released in 1958. They both lived quietly in Oklahoma City after that. Catherine changed her name back to Lyra Cleo Kelly, and worked as a bookkeeper at the Oklahoma County Poorhouse, which is a hospital and nursing home. Her mother died in 1980 at the age of 92, followed by Catherine in 1985 at the age of 81. Both women are buried at the Tecumseh Cemetery near Oklahoma City, and those are their graves. So the legacy. So there are many movies about Machine Gun Kelly. This is one of them from 1958. There are many books about him, and then obviously the rapper Machine Gun Kelly, which he got his stage name from the famous gangster. And yeah, that's a character.
Very good.
Yep.
Go back a little bit. Did you notice that gravestone in this?
How do I go back?
I think you just like scroll other way. If you just scroll a little roller. Yeah, there we go. Go back to the grave. His grave. So yeah, one more. There. Is it EY? I thought it.
Oh, maybe it is EY. In all of the other things, it was
But if you
KELLY.
flip the next one, his wife is.
His wife. Maybe that's the wrong grave.
Oh,
Ah, maybe he's not dead.
Who knows?
17 years at Alcatraz?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you did both of them too, because it's a great story.
Mhm.
Yeah, Pop Gun Kelly.
Very interesting.
Any questions? Yeah, good story. I like the caricature. That's great. All right, good job. Nice. Anybody like to vote for 10 minutes? That'd be awful tight to get one in. Anybody? All right, so who would want to go tomorrow? Aurora, you're going first. Okay, second, third, who else? Fourth. One more, fifth. All right, good. There we go, and then we'll pick it up on Thursday. My plan is Friday. Friday, if everything goes right, we'll talk about dress up day then. Talk about dressing up, and if I'm not here tomorrow, we'll watch that thing on Dillinger. Sound good? And then bump everything back one day. Make sure you send it to me. Yeah. Well, we might do a different dress up day, but Andy has clothes. And by the way, we have to decide exactly what you have.
I'd like to up there and a couple of dresses, and then I got a flat.
Okay, so on Friday, was there anybody who would like to dress up in a pinstripe suit? Look for volunteers to dress up like a gangster on Friday. Got Chris? Anybody else? Luke volunteer, thank you. How many?
Yeah, I can do.
No, we haven't.
No, I'm costuming.
Costume, and what else for dresses? What do we have?
I can do a couple of women to show like regular style, gangster modified style. I can do like,
So you have kind of a gangster? That'd be cool.
we have a lot of fur stickers.
A lot of
Like
fur.
a lot of genuine.
The thing about it, that'd be really cool. And we got two volunteers from pinstripe suits.
So I
We'll dress you up. No, we got the options for you.
no, I can do like a regular and like a monster.
Perfect.
We have lots of fedoras.
No, oh, and we have enough fedoras for everybody.
Oh, not for everyone.
Oh, I want everyone to have a fedora. I'm gonna vote it. All right,
We have lots of hats.
so raise your hand again if you're going tomorrow. Raise your hand again if you're going tomorrow. Chris, you're not going again? Chris, did you say tomorrow? Yeah. Okay, raise your hand if you're going tomorrow, please, so you can see everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, good. All right, good. If I'm not here tomorrow. Wait a minute, we should do something else. Say it again. I mean, get an idea from, yeah. Yeah, but make it a little film. My favorite song.